Eventually, I arrived in the dining room. The table was set with 6 candles, and small flames ate at the wicks. Above our heads moved a swinging chandelier, and the light of the room shifted. Only my left ear worked, and my guests were whispering, so I was forced to bring myself close to their mouths to comprehend them. What they said was nonsense. Warnings of a beast set loose within the halls, gripping all the servants with its teeth. I stood up, straightened my tie, and whispered to all of them there was nothing we should ever fear. I offered to investigate. The guests seemed to agree that was the best course of action. When I tried the door, the handle wouldn't budge. I twisted at it with all the force I could gather, and when that failed, I kicked the door a few times. First, in further attempt to open it, but a few more times to relieve frustration. I paced around the table and tried the other door, the one to the kitchen. It was locked too. I cursed several times underneath my breath and dragged my hand several times through my hair. One of the guests I noticed then was my mother, and she called me over. I put my left ear to her mouth, and she said, "The window." She pointed, and I looked up and noticed the window at the far wall was open, and a draft was coming in. I went over and shut it, and when I returned, my mother shook her head. "Use it to get out," she said. I recoiled from how loud she'd spoken in my ear. I opened the window again and climbed on the sill. The dining room was on the 2nd floor, and I suppose I was lucky it was on the 3rd, or 4th, or 5th. I lowered myself from the ledge and landed in a heap of gray grass. Dust stuck to my tongue, and I blew my nose to get it out of my nostrils. I tried to pat myself clean, but it wasn't much use. On the porch was a man, sitting, holding a shovel, and staring down the path, where at the gates a girl with long dark hair was standing. The man mumbled, but I had to bring my ear close so I could hear. His voice sounded refracted and droning. He said, "There's something happening in the house." I informed him I was aware of the issue and doing my best to take care of it. Then I pointed down the path to the girl. "She was bit," he said, and shrugged when I asked if she was all right. So I approached the gates and instructed her to show me her wound. A gash was on her arm, and no blood came from it, but it was deep, and I could see her bones. "Where were you?" she asked me. "In the dining room, entertaining the guests," I said. "It's your responsibility to stop things like this from happening." I tried to explain that I had been away, and I hadn't known, and then apologized. I told her I would slay any creature that ever did her harm. She asked, "What's the use if the harm's going prevented?" I returned up the path and grabbed the shovel from the man on the porch. "You'll assist me?" I asked him, but he frowned and shook his head and said it wasn't worth his time. I entered the front room, where the sun's moving position cast a weary source of hanging light through the bay windows. From the 2nd floor landing came a shout, and I raced up the steps, with the shovel held high. There was no one at the top of the staircase or at the end of the hall. A howling noise sounded through the house. I looked around me but didn't see the creature. When I tried to let the guests out of the dining room, the door still wouldn't open, so I broke the handle off with the shovel. They were still whispering when I entered, asking why I broke the door. "To let you out," I said, and threw the shovel down. They stayed in their chairs, and my mother rose and asked in my ear, "Have you gotten rid of the beast? Otherwise they'll stay here, and they're cranky, as supper was never served." I asked my mother how I was meant to kill such a frightening creature. My hands wouldn't do. She suggested I retrieve my father's hunting rifle and told me where to look. The howling creature did not appear or make its noises while I scurried to the basement. I rummaged through the trophy room and found bullets for the rifle, which I pulled down from the wall. My father never invited me on his hunts, so loading the weapon took a moment. I practiced placing the beast between my sights and putting lead into his eye. Half of my right eye saw my body spilled by the beast in a crack beneath a crater. When I went back up to the 2nd floor, the howl rang through the house. My investigations of the third and fourth floors showed no signs of the creature other than dead servants he had ripped. They were splayed against banisters, on the floors of the landings and the bedrooms. I tried not to see their faces, or did they not have faces? Were they pulled apart? When I undid the latch and let myself onto the roof, the air turned cold. Ice formed within my lung. The creature, 16 feet tall with an odor like beer, tar, and rust, perched on the edge of the roof and took no notice of me. I lifted the rifle. The howling beast said, "Have you found your wretched love? Have you lived within the wretched dream you searched for? Is it everything you hoped, or is it something less? When I kill you, this will be the sleep you don't wake up from. When I kill you, this will be the end. You'll have no time to apologize to her. She will die, the dream will die, and you will live in a labyrinth where every echo coming from the walls reminds you at length of the failure you are. Once a pitiful boy, now a pitiful man, your dreams live outside you. You will never reel them in." "Beast," I shouted, "howling pig, I am the conduit through which all dreams flow. Do not believe any less. You cannot speak to me with such disdain on the lands of the dreams I own. Even in a weakened state, I will have you dead, and have my cooks prepare you on the stove. My guests will feed on your corpse. The hole in whatever hell you go to will be filled with the sound of me, whispering in your ear, a mock version of your howling, the stupid sounds you make. I will go on, and you will never hear anything else." He leapt from his perch as I pulled the trigger. The bullet may have struck his leg, but it also may have missed. The creature hung up in the air above me and came down with its teeth baring. I raised the rifle high, and when it was 3 feet away, I put a bullet through its head. The creature did not have time to howl or moan, but even in death, it landed with its teeth out and pierced me. A long tooth went through my shoulder and ran down to my waist. I coughed blood into the mouth of the howling beast and cursed it and told it it was dead.